People who have snapped on a bully at school. What's your story? I was in middle school where I only had 2 friends and a lot of bullies. I was pretty used to getting teased for my hair not looking right. Was a young girl going through puberty and had no clue how to style my suddenly curly hair, or not wearing the popular clothes, or just being a gigantic weirdo. I taught constantly in class because I liked learning. I figured out quickly that the lessons moved faster if you interacted with the teacher, so on top of everything else, I was a huge nerd and teacher's pet. I was picked on pretty relentlessly through most of middle school for refusing to conform to the mean girls, for standing up for other people getting bullied by their friends, and for being a big old weeb before anything like that was cool. I brushed it off or didn't engage with most of it, though. So besides some hurtful jabs I didn't respond to and being outrageously unpopular, I usually was just ignored. But one day the teacher stepped out of science class, and kids being kids, the teasing began. They started on this guy who loved cats, like bring cat fancy magazines to school, loved cats. I'm not going to say the kid made it easy on himself, but I didn't think he deserved the awful things being said about him for his affinity for kitties. So I stood up for him and told him to cut it out. That was the wrong move, because I guess these kids had just decided they wanted to really make someone cry that day and set their sights on me. They pegged and poked at me on everything, from there being a bump in my hair, from my ponytail at gym, to my purse. A pretty sweet number my aunt had gone for me that was made out of upcycled Capri Sun packets. I was a dork. I finally got tired of it and laid my head down, waiting for the bell to ring and holding back tears because they were not going to get to see they made me want to cry. I bit those back and waited to be able to slink off to my next class and do that alone like a stubborn kid. The bell rang and I ran off as fast as possible to put my books down in my next class and get to the girls' room to cry it out in the stall in peace. Some of my more vocal bullies decided they wanted a piece of that action and followed me into English class to tease me some more. I had no sooner set my stuff on the table as a group of 3 of them came up behind me teasing me some more. Of course, the teacher wasn't in there because some of our classes had to share teachers and she had to walk back to this classroom for a lesson. So these girls figured they had at least 3 more good minutes of picking on me left before they had to go. Except something snapped in me. Night after night, I had laid in bed imagining what I would say when I finally had the courage to stand up to these bratty little girls. All the flaws I wanted to point out at them. All the venom I had been storing up inside. I decided enough was enough. Her name was Candy. Short, blonde, and acted exactly like how you imagined a girl named Candy would act in middle school. She had 2 girls flanking her. One who liked to cheat on me in social studies, and one who I honestly can't remember who they were, because give me a break. I've remembered a lot from this day 14 years ago, but not everything. They came up behind me and started again, but before they got a full sentence out and I snapped, "You know what, Candy? You can make fun of me now because one day I'm going to hit puberty and grow out of this awkward stage I'm in. But you're always going to be ugly and hateful when you treat others like this." Y'all, she lost it. Immediately started bawling her eyes out and ran out of the room, her slack-jawed lackeys in tow. I was honestly surprised it worked, if you wanted to know the truth. But it did, and I'll be damned if they didn't leave me alone after that. The occasional poke and prod here and there, but not to the extent it had been, and Candy wouldn't even look at me for almost 5 years after that. Bonus content. A couple of years ago, I went to a birthday party where, lo and behold, Candy was there. She was super friendly and nice to my husband while ignoring me. It's also possible she didn't realize who I was, considering we hadn't seen each other in 8 years. And I had to be told who she was because I didn't recognize her. She chain smokes now, and my husband says I grew up to be much prettier than her. I looked up Mr. Cat Fancy himself not too long ago, and while he doesn't post a lot, it appears he has gone hot and married, and still loves cats so freaking much. Names have obviously been changed, and no, I don't remember what I said word for word, but it was pretty close to that. I would like to say I've grown up to be the bigger person, but nah, I'm petty as hell and had to stop myself from absolutely ragging on Candy at the birthday party. I didn't, but damn, did I want to remind her of this moment so badly. Story 2. 5th grade. Can't remember what specifically caused me to snap, but after spending the last 5 years being continually bullied by a specific boy, I had enough. I calmly walked to the mounted pencil sharpener at the back of the class and sharpened my pencil to a very fine tip. Then I walked behind said bully, and in a downward motion slashed him in one fluid motion. Obviously, I got a truckload of crap for what I did. Principal insinuated to my mother that the parents of the other boy may want to press charges for my harming their pride and joy. My mother, bless her heart, retorted back, "If that's the case, perhaps I should press charges considering how often my son has been coming home with cuts, bruises, and welts, administered at their boy's hands without repercussions from your staff." Principal moonwalked out of that conversation so freaking fast. I still was read the riot act at home, though. Got drilled into me that what I did was use a weapon to harm someone, and that it would never be tolerated at any level. Grounded for a very, very long time. Bully gave me space, for a while anyway. Went back to his usual torment after a couple of weeks, minus any physical contact. Yo, I did the exact same thing when I was in first grade. Story 3. I was severely bullied from my earliest memory all the way through high school. The times I remember snapping were these. Third grade. We were putting the chairs upside down onto the desks at the end of the day, and this kid kept pushing my chair and pushing me. I turned around and shoved him as hard as I could with both hands, and he fell onto the desk behind him. The chair fell off, he fell off onto the chair, and I got in trouble. Fourth grade. At some Boy Scout thing and there were sodas, I got one out of the cooler and the kid who bullied me a lot grabbed it out of my hand and walked away. I grabbed another one and threw it at the back of his head. Got in trouble, of course. 7th or 8th grade, after being bullied incessantly, I lost it and was crying and screaming and punching the lockers and got in trouble for denting a couple of them. 9th or 10th grade. While on the bus, one of the bullies grabbed my comb out of my back pocket. He'd messed with me a lot. Rather than punching, for some reason I used my open hand to slap him on top of his head. He was seated and I was standing on the aisle. He complained of his neck hurting from it and I got in trouble. Between each of these instances, I'd put up with constant bullying every day and do nothing, and no teachers gave a damn. Bullies got away with bullying all the time, but even if I simply said, "Leave me alone," with a loud voice, so I was in trouble. It never made sense to me. I want to clarify I'm not the attention-seeking, intentional victim type, just answering and relaying my experiences. While I still have a ton of self-doubt, I'm doing pretty decently now. Took a ton of time and effort, though. Lol. Story 4. In 4th grade, Ronnie and Freddie kept ridiculing me, making remarks, teasing me at recess. I was raised to be peaceful and accommodating. I tried to ignore them, but it got under my skin. I decided to stay near the teacher during recess. They left me alone then, but I couldn't stay near the teacher all the time. They accused me of being the teacher's pet. That bugged me even more. This went on for weeks. When recess was over, we lined up on the sidewalk to go back indoors. One day, Ronnie was right behind me. He started teasing me. I lost it. I took him down. Ronnie stopped teasing me. Noting the improvement, I challenged Freddie to a fight after school. A crowd gathered. It took only a few seconds for me to pin Freddie to the ground and force him to surrender. That ended the teasing from Freddie. A day or two later, my mother and I were called to the principal's office. My father was overseas in combat. Ronnie and his mother were there. I never knew where Ronnie's father was. As soon as the meeting started, Ronnie's mother launched into an indictment of me. Before she was finished, the principal cut her short. "Now let's hear the other side," she said. I stated my case. The principal heard me out and said, "Gentlemen don't fight. It's against the rules to fight on the school ground. I want you two to shake hands and apologize." I did as told. Ronnie had to be prompted to apologize. But that's not the end of it. Years later, in my early 20s, I had a job at a research institute at university. The institute director's beautiful young wife said to me, "A young man called Ronald J. was just hired. He says he roughed you up in grad school?" "That's not exactly how I remember it," I replied. "I'm not surprised," she said. A week later, there was a party at the director's house. Ronnie and I were there. Ronnie was slender, maybe 5'9". I was 6'4", about 195 pounds, and ran 6 miles per day. The director's wife maneuvered Ronnie over to the group where I was and said, "Ronald, let's hear how you roughed up Polanski in grade school." Ronnie mumbled something about a mistaken impression and left shortly afterward. He was careful to avoid me from then on. Sometime during the next year or so, I laughed and mentioned it to my mother. She said the principal had said to her, "I wish I'd been there to see what Polanski did." That is so satisfying to read. Not only did he get what was coming to him, but he was also humiliated during adulthood. Enjoying the video so far? Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already so you wouldn't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Story 5. I was a TA in my senior year of high school. There was this kid who was a super jerk to everyone, but specifically this kid who I believe was on the spectrum. One day we had a sub and he walked out of the room for like 5 minutes. The bully took this opportunity to be extra mean to this other kid, who also in that day wasn't having it. They started to get in each other's face and name call, so me being an ignorant teenager pulled out my phone so I could record the fight. But then I kind of thought, dang, this kid is about to get roughed up, and I snapped myself. I pretty much told the bully to piss off and he was being a jerk for no reason. So the bully gets in my face and asks me what I'm going to do about it. Boom. I start swinging. It happened so fast I don't remember much. I just remember a bunch of kids yelling at me to stop, so I sat down and was freaking livid. There was this cholo in that class who pretty much never did any work or talked to anyone, but he looked at me and started tapping his face. I tapped mine and there was red on it. I got to the bathroom to clean up and bully guy's in there cleaning a cut I gave him. He puffed up and said, "Let's finish this." So I told him it was already finished and we were cool as long as he didn't mess with that kid anymore. We shook hands and walked back to class. Obviously, we both got pulled into the office shortly after. I was told our school had a zero fight policy and I would be suspended. Though after speaking to the kid who got bullied a lot, I got off without any trouble and the other kid ended up getting expelled. The bully kid ended up writing me this cool note that my mom still has and basically saying thanks and it was cool I could take a punch. Story 6. My bully caught us, me and twin sister, walking home from the pool. My mother's idiotic theory about bullies was that you need to communicate with them and find out what you did wrong and then apologize. And everything will be fixed. Pro tip, it will not. So she informed me their problem with me was that I was ugly and she hated my stupid face and wanted to hurt me. And she did so with her padlock rolled in a towel. Awesome. Mom was briefly puzzled but insisted I needed to question her further and find out what I had really done to her. Thank God for my stepdad because he snuck into my room and said, "I'll deny it if you tell your mother I said this, but rough her up." After all, violence is never the answer. Pro tip? Yes, sometimes it is. A couple of days later, my sister and I are mailing a letter and here she comes again. She was kicking me, calling me names, and I guess I just decided to try Dad's way. By the end, I had her by the hair, swinging her in a huge arc so she couldn't get at me, and she was bruised and begging me to stop. I said I would on the condition that she never freaking look, speak, or touch me ever again. She agreed. Then I ran home wailing because I knew my mom was going to be so mad at me. Even lost a shoe, lol. Luckily again, Dad was home. Took him about an hour to figure out I had won the fight. I still remember the incredulous roar of, "Wait, what the heck? You won? What the heck are you crying about?" Then he found out that the whole time we were fighting, my sister had gone and sat on a fence and watched, and he lost it. Apparently, old school fight rules say that if it's your sibling, you get the heck in there. Mom was fluttering about in the background, yammering on about how disappointed she was. Violence is never the answer, blah, blah, blah. By that point, I got to see stepdad put his parenting foot down. I would not be punished for finally dealing with a bully. Mom would shut the hell up with her hippie nonsense. Twin sister would spend the rest of the night in her room thinking about how messed up it was that she sat on a fence and watched me. Damn, stepdad is a real one. Story 7. 5th grade. Was already having a bad day, and in math class, my longtime tormentor sat behind me. About halfway through class, he whacks me in the back of my head with my textbook and yells, "Move, I can't see the board." So I moved to the desk next to me, which was empty. So he moved to the desk behind that, which was also empty, and started kicking the crap out of my chair and yelling stuff like, "Oh my freaking God, you're so fat." And "I bet nobody even loves you because you're so freaking dumb." Keep in mind that this was the kid who never did homework, got held back in 2nd grade, all that stuff. Also, he was like 6 inches shorter than me at that time. Still kind of is. Now, I wasn't the tallest kid in class. That title belonged to insert name, who was 6'2" in 5th grade. But I was still taller and likely stronger than almost everyone. When he starts yelling along the lines of, "I bet I could clap you in a fight. You're so fat and weak and stupid." Then started going around class telling people that we were going to fight after school and telling people to bet on him to win. He was short, not fat, but not thin either. Never mind, I'll be honest. This kid was at least 160 pounds and already had a double chin. Odd, seeing that his parents were both fit runners. Anyway, after class he hit me down there and I fell to the ground and started crying. I was taken to the school nurse who was concerned, but I lied and told her I had another anxiety attack. I had 2 or 3 almost every week. Processes similar to this went on for about 4 days. On the last day when he was kicking and taunting me, I whipped my head around and freaking screamed at the top of my lungs, "Enough! Knock it the hell off!" Seeing as I was normally the quiet kid who was super non-confrontational, he got scared and started crying. My useless math teacher, who never did a thing to try and help me, screamed at me, gave me a detention, which I never went to, and sent me to the principal's office. I was scared too because I was worried for myself, mostly because I have never hated a human more than that moment. After class, the teacher and the bully went to the office, where I was sentenced to even more detentions. Also never served, I was suspended for fighting. Parents came to pick me up and the principal told my parents what had happened, and my parents grounded me in front of the principal. Once we got home, my parents asked for the real story. They knew what most of the principal told them was BS and he told them the whole story. He got super mad and called my principal, who responded, "That's what teacher's name told me. If you have a problem, go complain to her." So the next day we went to complain to the math teacher and she got defensive and actually yelled at my parents saying, "All I saw was my name, screaming at poor Bully's name. Bully's name did nothing to my name." The parents responded with, and no, they were not screaming entitled parent style, "We know our son would not lie about this sort of thing. He sees no point in lying to us." We then talked to our principal, who removed my detentions and suspension, as well as gave the math teacher, bully, and bully's parents a warning that if they heard of any problems between me and my bully, that he would be suspended or expelled. Story 8. I was a goth chick. It was 1987, I was 14. It was a great time to be goth, but I thought of myself as new wave. I was new in school, so I got double bullied. Weirdo with a funny accent. There was this a-hole 17-year-old sophomore, total loser, waiting till he turned 18 so he could drop out. He had this red Impala. The thing was freaking red. Rims were red, hubcaps were red, windshield wipers were red, antenna was red. He was a big bully, bullied everyone, all day, every day. People just took it and didn't make fun of his car because he was way bigger than his classmates. I'd just gone out of a particularly bad gym class. People threw rocks at me and my friends, calling us witches as we walked around the track. I was in a mood. In English class after gym, this jerk is sitting right behind me. I was wearing an Echo and the Bunnyman t-shirt. This dude dropped his pencil. It rolled up at my foot. When I reached down to pick it up to hand it back to him, he said, "Hey, Bunnyman, that's my pencil. Don't you touch it." Boy, did I snap. I picked up his desk, the one he was sitting behind, and I proceeded to wail in the stir bag with that desk, screaming, "I never did anything to you! You drive a car that looks like my period!" And I roughed him up. He was crying. A bunch of people pulled me off of him, and an ambulance was called. People cheered, I was told. I saw nothing but rage. The next day, my dad and I were sitting outside of the guidance counselor's office. Dad is telling me this is it. I'll probably get kicked out of school, maybe start my arrest record today. When we met the guy and his parents, his dad was freaking 7 feet tall, I swear. And he told his son to shake my hand and thank me for roughing him up. He was lucky to be getting his bum handed to him by a girl. It would teach him to lose the attitude before someone else out in the real world taught him the lesson. Most likely in prison. Dad was right. The kid was off in jail before he was 30. I did my part to try to get him to lose the tude. Think he had to sell the red car to pay his hospital bills, too. His dad wouldn't let mine pay even their deductible. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.